All things considered, Illinois isn't too bad of a state. Illinois residents may not agree on damn near anything, but you can find that famous Midwest hospitality just about everywhere in the Prairie State. So the last time we talked about Illinois, we learned a lot of stuff. Like, we learned that some of the best places to live in Illinois are going to be in mini Chicago suburbs. These areas include places on the north and west side of Chicago: Clarendon Hills, Long Grove, Buffalo Grove, Naperville and Evanston, places like that. This is where it's very safe and the schools are great, but it's really expensive. We also learned that the worst places you can live in Illinois are going to be on the south side of Chicago, west Chicago, east St. Louis, Rockford, Peoria, and Decatur. We figured out that the top part of the state is basically Wisconsin, the southern part of the state is basically Kentucky, and the middle majority of the state's all smaller cities and cornfields, which are really pretty in the summer, but drab and dreary for 6 months a year. We also talked about high taxes in Illinois and talked about the population loss here. Lots of people are fleeing Illinois for surrounding states like Wisconsin and Indiana, or for as far away as Colorado, Texas, and Florida. Illinois is one of only 3 states that lost people over the last decade. We'll talk about more on that later. But there's a lot more to Illinois than just that. We didn't talk about some Illinois history, interesting facts, and issues that people in Illinois face today. That's what we're going to do in this video, kind of pick up where we left off in a more lighthearted way. Plus, we're going to meet people from Illinois who are going to tell us what it's like in their state and where you should move if you decide to relocate here. It's time for Corner House Tales, Illinois, the cornhole state. Illinois is a place we'll talk about today. We're going to learn a lot about it.
For all the Illinois news you need to know, I'm Skip Britzman.
Thanks, Skip. If you're moving to Illinois, you need to know what's happening here. And if you live in Illinois, you should know what's going on in your state too. Come on. As you might know, Illinois has the worst credit rating of all states in the country. There's a backlog of $7 to $8 billion in unpaid bills. I mean, they can't even pay lottery winners at times. And the state has a massive pension liability it's never been able to figure out. They need money here, bad. So they want to raise taxes on households who make more than $750K and lower taxes for the middle class, or so they say. All this extra money will be used to fund healthcare initiatives, to pay for food and support for those in poverty, and to go towards Illinois' failing public school systems. Another solution, they're putting in a casino, or thinking about it. Chicago folks are thinking about a 500-room mega casino convention center thing. The thought is $200 million a year in tax revenue would help Chicago's bleeding deficit. They think the casino here would be popular because, so many people in the area go to Indiana to gamble. Other smaller communities in Illinois have considered allowing riverboat casinos in their towns too to bring in much needed money. All of those would be a bad idea. And a lot of this stuff's on the ballot this year in Illinois. So far, a lot of people here have rejected another tax hike. It doesn't help that more than half the state has an unfavorable view of its governor, J.B. Pritzker. And people are upset about the high gas prices too. And those in southern Illinois are especially pissed at Pritzker because he's threatened to shut down all the state's coal plants down here. But it's kind of hard to please everybody in Illinois. Those who live in fancy homes in Chicago have much different needs than those in poverty down by the Kentucky state line. And because of all the economic woes, a lot of people are leaving Illinois. This is one of only 3 states to have a negative population growth over the last decade. 80,000 residents left the state in the last decade, taking $6 billion in income with them. Overall, 6 in 10 residents say they too have considered leaving the state, and that includes 70% of people under 34 years old and 70% of the state's conservatives too. It's also worth mentioning Illinois also lost a House seat. You may be aware that large chunks of Illinois are suffering greatly with crime and poverty. East St. Louis and the south side of Chicago are doing terribly right now. A lot of that's because of decades of job losses. A lot of residents have turned to booze and drugs and have fallen into generational failure, worse off with each generation. And that extra welfare to pay for every new generation certainly doesn't help Illinois' bleeding deficit. On the south side of Chicago, there's shootings every day, and innocent people are dying. People push drugs all day long, and prostitutes walk around on heroin. A lot of people on the south side deal drugs, gangbang, live off of welfare or disability, or they're saving up money to get the hell out of there. And there's not a lot of optimism on how to fix things here. But it doesn't end there. Recently, Illinois ran out of underwear for its prison inmates. That's right. And the new plan was to pay more for inmate underwear, which is going to cost taxpayers $183,800 a year. That's funny that there's low-life inmates running around Illinois prisons without their panties on. Why do they need underwear anyway? They're hardened criminals. Okay, enough of that bad Illinois news. It's time for some Illinois facts, everyone.
I like facts. See?
If you move to Illinois for some reason, you need to know some facts, right? That way you're knowledgeable about your future home. Stuff like this.
On the farm, we grow a food that's everything you need to eat. It's a fruit, a veg, a bread, a milk, a cheese, a bean, a meat. Hi, I'm Farmer Brown, singing about the foods you need to keep you healthy.
You may not know it, but the state of Illinois has the 5th highest GDP in the nation. And a lot of that's not corn, everyone. You'd think this state made most of its money on corn and beans, but agriculture is less than 1% of the state's total economy. A third of Illinois' economy is based in finance, insurance, real estate, and professional business services, whatever that means. And mining is surprisingly about half as big as agriculture is. Illinois actually has 22 active coal mines today, and it's the country's 4th largest coal producer, although the long-term future of Illinois' coal mining is in doubt. But who'd have thunk it? Illinois makes a lot of coal. Even people who live there probably don't know this stuff. Illinois has 2 international ports. That's right. One leaves Chicago via Lake Michigan, and another leaves Chicago and goes down the Chicago River to the Des Plaines River to the Illinois River and connects to the Mississippi. It is a fact that Illinois has a bomb-ass state flag, something I spoke about in a previous video. By the rivers gently flowing, Illinois, Illinois. I could sing that at Lollapalooza if somebody wanted to go ahead and hook that up. If you moved here, you should also know there's an estimated 650,000 white-tailed deer in the state. Although there's such a nuisance on crops in Illinois, they encourage people to shoot them. But for food, people, in the state of Illinois, it's illegal to hang something from your rear view mirror. Okay, that's dumb. John Deere invented the first ever plow in Grand Detour, Illinois in 1837. That's a teeny little place along the Rock River south of Rockford. Today, the headquarters of John Deere is in Moline, Illinois, right across from Davenport. Everybody knows Illinois could be basically 2 states, the greater Chicago area and the rest of Illinois. In fact, lots of people downstate from Chicago wish Chicago was its own state. Their taxes would be a lot lower, I'll tell you that. But it is a fact that the Chicago metro area has 2/3 of the state's total population. One U.S. president was born in Illinois. Not Lincoln, he was born in Kentucky. Not Obama, he was born in Hawaii, supposedly. Ronald Reagan was born in Tampico, a teeny little town about an hour from Moline. The University of Illinois' mascot used to be Chief Illinois, but, it was offensive. So very soon, the new mascot for the University of Illinois will probably be the belted kingfisher. Boring. For a long time, Peoria was the 2nd biggest city in Illinois. Today, Peoria sucks and lots of people left, and now it's the 7th biggest city in the state. You may not know it by driving around many of Illinois' crumbling cities, but this state ranks 1st in the country in percentage of community college students who go on to complete their bachelor's degree. Good for you guys in Illinois. Illinois also ranks 1st in the country for production of horseradish and pumpkins, and is 2nd for production of corn and soybeans. You probably would know that by driving around this state. And you may not know it, but Illinois generates more nuclear power than any other state too. Whoa. If you moved here, you should definitely know Illinois ranks 9th in the nation for total taxes, even ahead of California. And Illinois has the nation's 2nd highest real estate tax at 2.3%. Maybe you don't want to move here now, huh?
Did you know Illinois was the first state to abolish slavery?
I did not know that Illinois was the first state to ban slavery, Mappy. Good for them. And now that means it's time for some Illinois trivia. Let's call people from Illinois and see if they can answer some tough questions about where they live and give you a chance to meet some locals before you even move here yourself.
You do good on trivia. Estás.
So right now we have Brian from 217 Problems. They have a huge Facebook page with like 120,000 followers. Brian lives in central Illinois. Hey, Brian.
Hey, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, dude. So I want to know if you're going to do some Illinois trivia with me. How's that sound?
It's good. I'll probably be as bad as our politics are, but we'll see.
Okay, they're not too hard. I think you'll be able to figure it out. And apparently you're driving around some cornfields right now, I guess, right? Seems like.
Oh yeah, cow, another cow.
All right. So the first question is, where's the capital of John Deere?
Griggsville, Illinois.
No, I've never heard of Griggsville. That sounds like a small town somewhere.
It is.
No, it's actually Moline up by Davenport, right on the river there.
Yeah, I want to know.
Yeah, that's not common knowledge among Illinoisans.
No, it's not. No.
Okay, so Erica, you've lived in Chicago almost your entire life, so you might know some of these.
Okay.
The first question is, where's the capital of John Deere, the headquarters for John Deere tractors?
I don't feel it like it would be Deerfield.
No, it's not Deerfield. John Deere, his tractor is what put Illinois on the map, sort of.
Yeah.
Not really. All right, so question number 2. Who is the only U.S. president born in Illinois?
I'm going to go Thomas Jefferson.
No.
I would take a guess and say Reagan.
It is Reagan. You got that. Okay, question 3. What is Illinois' state snack?
I'm going to go with the potato dip.
I would say popcorn.
It is popcorn. Good for you. Dang. You're actually really good at this.
Oh, thanks. Okay, so the reason I guessed that is because in Chicago, we have this caramel and cheese popcorn, and it's called like the Chicago mix. So that's why I guess. Like, have you ever been to Garrett's Popcorn here?
No,
Okay, so yeah, everybody comes to Garrett's when there's a bunch of locations downtown. So next time you come to Garrett's and get the caramel and cheese mix. I'm sure it's like 1,000,000 calories, but that's what people like call the Chicago popcorn.
All right, question number 4. So Illinois clearly has a lot of farmland. Within 5%, what percentage of Illinois is covered in farmland?
I'm going to say 64%.
What was it?
64%.
Ooh, it's actually 80%.
Okay, I'll do 65%.
Okay, so Illinois has the only river in the world that flows backwards. What river is that?
Oh, man. Is it the Illinois River?
It's the Chicago River.
It is the Chicago River. Good job. You got 3 out of 5 right. That's like 60%. And now it's time for the history of Illinois in 3 minutes or less. A long time ago, before you even thought about moving here, Illinois wasn't even Illinois. It was Native Americans. And the tribe that was the biggest was the Illini people. They likely made clay pots and looked at the stars. The French came first in 1673, and soon there were French villages all over Illinois. The biggest one was where East St. Louis is now, at a place called Cahokia. It was here that 300 years before, a bunch of Native Americans lived, and they built a giant wall to separate their rich from their poor. And we have many walls here in today's world that separate classes too. Anyways, Britain came in and kicked France's ass out of Illinois, and then Britain took over. Then a bunch of settlers from nearby states flooded in. Part of that crowd came in on the newly constructed Erie Canal, which took all these people all the way across most of the Great Lakes to as far as they could go, which was Chicago. When they drew up the plans for the new state of Illinois in 1818, they were going to make the Illinois border go up to where the Indiana state line was. But that wouldn't have given Illinois any access to Lake Michigan. Come on now. So Illinois can thank a guy named Nathaniel Pope, who lobbied to have Illinois' border moved more north. Without him, there would be no Chicago on the lake and no Chicago River at all. Now, a lot of people in southern Illinois don't like people in Chicago, understandably so, but they probably don't know that southern Illinoisans saved many Chicago lives one time. In 1836, there was a terrible winter that moved in so fast, puddles froze in 5 minutes. The whole state couldn't grow crops during this one long winter. Everywhere but southern Illinois, that is. So, southern Illinois shipped food up to northern Illinois so they could survive. See, you guys can get along. That's why they call southern Illinois Little Egypt, because that's the biblical story of when Joseph supplied grain to his brothers. Illinois people love each other. Now, slavery was a big thing when Illinois became a state, and as time went on, it became a major national issue. Illinois was a free state, but some people still had slaves here. Come on now. And right here in this state at that time was a man named Abraham Lincoln, who lived in New Salem, Illinois, a teeny little place down by the Mississippi River. Lincoln hadn't done much up to this point in his life. He was just 22 years old. He had just moved to Illinois from Indiana. He only had about 1 full year of formal schooling up to that point, and he was just trying to figure out his career. Should he be a farmer or a carpenter? Well, Lincoln took a bunch of odd jobs to make money, and on one of his odd jobs one day, somebody paid him to transport grain bags down the Mississippi to New Orleans and back. And what did he see for the first time in his life when he got to New Orleans? Slavery. And he was horrified. And that changed everything. Then they had a football team in 1986. They beat everybody by a lot, and the players even made a music video. And that really happened. Okay, so we learned a lot about Illinois, didn't we? Yes, we did. The big question is Illinois going to continue to lose people? Are a lot of people going to continue to take off for better jobs and lower taxes and warmer weather? And how can a state that's so broke continue to make progress? And will Chicago ever solve its problem with gangs and violence? The answer to all those questions is probably not. Illinois has a lot of great places to live in, but in order to find a place that's not outrageously expensive or ghetto or dangerous, you gotta look really hard these days. And that's a shame. Illinois is a place we talked about today. We learned a lot about it. If someone's thinking about moving to Chicago, what part of town would be the best place for them to move to?
So right now the most popular place to move is the West Loop. The West Loop obviously is west of the downtown area. There's a lot of younger people there. The restaurant district is there. A lot of trendy restaurants. There's a lot of fitness centers in that area. Actually, UIC, which is University of Illinois of Chicago, not U of C, which is University of Chicago, but UIC. It's a really trendy area, lots of 20, 30-year-olds. It's a nice walking neighborhood. Greek town's there, Little Italy's there. So it's real. The medical district is there. So like Rush Hospital, UIC Hospital, Cook County Hospital. That's like the most trendy area right now for people like our age. I assume you look like my age. So that's like
I'm
where
a little
all
bit
the
older.
Okay, that's where all the people like our age are right now, besides Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park is like super, super expensive. And that's like the neighborhood a lot of people know, but the other neighborhood with like a lot of like 20, 30-year-olds is the West Loop.
It's got to be expensive to live in the West Loop, though, yeah?
It used to not be so expensive, but like everything, it's getting up there. But a lot of people have roommates and stuff like that. So, but you know, people, you got to pay a premium to live, you know, somewhere cool.
So are the suburbs overrated? Naperville, like that whole Arlington Heights, like all that area that's like on the far west and north suburbs of Chicago that everybody always says is like the best place to live, where they film movies and stuff. Is that overrated, or do you think that's a pretty good place for people to still move to today?
It depends on the vibe you want, right? So I have some relatives in Naperville, and Naperville's nice. You know, it's a good suburb, good schools, it's clean. It's relatively safe. Arlington Heights, I feel like Arlington Heights, the northwestern suburbs, feel like they're so far away compared to like Naperville. I feel like Naperville is very family oriented. You feel like, you want a family if you live out there versus the northwestern suburbs. Everything seems so like spaced out, and it doesn't seem as kid friendly as like some of the western suburbs.
Mm-hmm. So Illinois is like the number 3 in the country for number of people leaving Illinois. Do you know people that have left, and why are so many people leaving Illinois?
Yeah, I've known a lot of people who left. Most of them have gone to Texas or Georgia. The main thing that I hear people is just the ease of getting jobs. They say like when you go down to Texas, most of the people I know were able to get a job like in a month, and then they want to get away from the weather. So it's not necessarily. I think people just want something new. It's not that Illinois is just so horrible. It's not. I don't feel like it's necessarily more horribly run than anywhere else. It's just that people want something new, especially Black people. They're going back to they want to be warm, so they're leaving. And then the houses, there's more space too. In the Midwest, the houses are closer together, and I think people like my next door neighbor actually just moved to Georgia, and she said she wanted more space, and she just wants to be in a warm climate, and so she went to Georgia. Yeah, I think that's the main thing, just the opportunity and the housing costs, and wanting to be warm.
Mm-hmm. You can't blame people for that. The Great Migration was like in the 40s and 50s when a lot of African Americans moved up from the South to get all the jobs up in the Midwest and the Northeast. And now what they think we're seeing is like another reverse Great Migration where the African Americans are sick of the cold and the high cost of living, and they're moving back down to the South again.
Yeah, and the thing is too, the saying the 40s seems so far away, but actually a lot of us still have relatives who are either stayed down south or they were up here at one point and they moved down south previously. So a lot of people are still moving somewhere where they have family in the South. So it's not like a shot in the dark. So, just like going back home. And especially the older population that are retiring now, they're like, oh, we're going back to the South so we can be warm in our retirement years.
Yeah. Well, you have a good attitude about Illinois because a lot of people complain all the time about it. I get a lot of emails and comments from people that are like, I'm out of here, I'm leaving, I hate this state. But you seem to be pretty like you're average. You're just like, it's a good place to be. It's not the best place, but
my parents, when I was growing up, they didn't keep us in a box. We went all over Chicago, all different neighborhoods. I think so one of the city slogans is it's a city of neighborhoods. Like you can go to a different neighborhood and it seems totally different. The far south side is nothing like the far northwest side. You wouldn't even think it's in Chicago still. So I think if you go and discover a lot of different things that are in the city, you'll be like, wow, this is why tourists come here. And if you don't engage in the different things in the museums and, just go see the tourist attractions. What are these tourists coming to see? You're like, oh, if you go to Crown Fountain with your family and you're sitting out there on a Saturday and enjoying it just like anybody else, you're like, oh, there's plenty of free things to do, and that's what I kind of see. You got to be a tourist in your own city and you can learn to appreciate things. That's like the main thing.
Good for you. I'm glad you're happy. I didn't know if you were gonna. I mean, you wrote in and said, "Hey, I've been living in Chicago for a while." I get a lot of people who write me that say, "I live in Chicago and I hate it and I want to complain about it." I didn't know if you were gonna say that or if you were gonna be positive. So here we go. You're a happy Chicagoan.
I mean, if you want me to share bad things too, I do have a lot of complaints.
I mean, yeah, complain too. I mean, you did a good job of saying the good things. Like, what's bad about it?
The other So of course the violence, which scares the mess out of like everybody. That's all you hear on the news about how many people have been shot and things like that. The other problem when it comes to people having children in the city is the school system. Basically, in Chicago, the public school setting is not like typical where you move in your area and you just go to that school that's nearest your house. So we have things called magnet schools, and it's really, really competitive to get into a magnet school. And a lot of people, if their kids don't get into a magnet school and they can't afford a Catholic or a private school, they'll move to the suburbs. That's like a huge push for a lot of people to move to the suburbs. It's because really in Chicago, depending on what school you go to, we really view it as like a pipeline to like your future, even from grammar school. Getting into the top public schools in Chicago is a big deal. And if people don't get into the schools they want, they're like, oh, we got to move.
That's too bad. That schools are, I mean, it's supposed to be, you know, kids are supposed to have the opportunity that everybody else has, and you get stuck in a bad school and you're set up for failure, right? I mean, sort of.
Oh, yeah. That's the way you feel. You're like in kindergarten, you're already like, oh no, my kid isn't going to the right school. Their future is ruined.
What is it about the schools that are bad? Is it just funding and the teachers are just not into it? Or are the schools just bad performing because the kids aren't trying? Like, what makes for a bad school in Chicago?
Never want to say kids aren't trying, because I think all kids want to do good and be praised, right? You don't want to say like a kindergartner or a first grader isn't trying. I think sometimes recognizing the proper support for children is lacking, and working in CPS, I'm sure, is very stressful and draining for the teachers, and they might lose their passion over time. I don't think it's necessarily a funding issue. I can't really necessarily pinpoint what the problem is with some, and I hate to blame it all on parent involvement, because I mean the kids are at school with them for 8 hours a day, but when parents are involved, they're raising money, they're volunteering at the school, it makes a big difference. And some communities, if it's a school with mostly single mothers, they can't do a lot of, fundraising and stuff. So,
Yeah, no, for sure. It's 100%. It's a lot of it has to do with the parents being able to be there for the kids. And if they're not around, it makes it really tough for the teachers to kind of keep them focused, and the kids seem to lose focus. And it's too bad that that's how it is. But yeah. Do you have a lot of friends that like downstate that live in farm towns, or are people in Chicago kind of stick to their own?
no, I don't think I know anybody from downstate Illinois.
Do you ever go down there? I mean, I know there's a separation where people downstate, especially Southern Illinois, they hate on Chicago because Chicago has all the money but all the crime. And Chicago people are like, downstate people, what? Where is that? Like, we don't care about them. I mean, is there like a huge rift between the states, between those part of the states?
I would say for the most part, the rest of the state kind of hates the fact that everybody thinks all about Chicago and they forget the whole other state. And then really people forget like that there's even, even when you ask a lot of people, what's the second largest state in Illinois? People are like, what? Like, people literally only know Chicago. And I think that makes everybody mad.
Let's talk about your state a little bit.
Okay.
Illinois gets a lot of heat, a lot of just the stigma as being a place that a lot of people seem to be unhappy with the politics and the taxes and the drama. I mean, I've got friends and family in Illinois. I hear about it all the time. Is Illinois worth moving to? Would you recommend for people that are considering the Midwest?
So I would say Illinois is worth moving to in the sense of, if you're looking for a majority of the places that are quiet and kind of just chill, in terms of your day-to-day life, then yeah, I think it's fine. I mean, as a millennial, you're told to move after college, and I attempted it, and you know, at the end of the day, like, palm trees and mountains and oceans are fine, but, you know, also cost of living is awful. So, you know, I would rather have my day-to-day life be, you know, relatively peace and quiet and, you know, my kind of speed than live somewhere where, you know, I have to have 5 jobs just to be able to make rent, you know. Yeah, the taxes are, you know, something, but I don't know. I'm kind of on the mindset that every state has its thing where your money, the taxes or whatever, has got to come from somewhere. So if you don't pay for it in one end, you're paying for it on another end. It looks different. That's my thought on it. I don't know if that's wherever you're at.
Yeah, I mean, I don't live there, so I don't really have an opinion because I have not experienced it. I'm just going by what I hear. Do people in central Illinois despise Chicago because it seems like all the drama and the taxes and everything that's people complain about in Illinois comes from Chicago?
Oh,
is there
yeah,
like
for sure, because it, you know, that's where the most population is. So like everybody up there swings one way while the rest of the state swings another way, and people, you know, feel like they're not fully represented because, you know, 10 million people up north represent what the rest of the state is, because, you know, it's Chicago and then the rest are, you know, not as populated areas. You know, it's cornfields. It's more cornfield than people, you know, and it's people resent that. So I mean, you know, when I first started the page, Chicago should be its own state kind of thing, and people get really charged up with that. So I mean, I don't know. I love the Cubs, so I'm glad that Chicago's in my state or in my area. But yeah, people get really really fired up about it because, like I said, they just don't feel properly represented. So.
Yeah, and you talk to people all the time in Central Illinois. Your page has a huge reach. You're constantly kind of interacting with a ton of people in Central Illinois. What are a few things that people complain about the most in your part of the state? Like the common themes that are constantly being talked about and discussed and memed and mocked.
So, you know, it is really, you know, the taxes, you know, like the joke is, you know, every day you wake up, you know, you're getting taxed just for waking up. You know, people don't like the current governor for various reasons. You know, the joke is all, you know, I saw a meme once that said, you know, Illinois has more governors who've went to prison than the Cubs won World Series, you know. So, on a lesser degree, the weather, you know, how it's always changing and unpredictable and stuff like that. Some people get tired of that. You know, unkept roads. I hear that's another one that's been trending recently, is unkept roads. You know, potholes are, you know, as some states. So yeah, that's kind of a variety of things people complain about over the years.
So, like, if you do research on the best places to move to Illinois, almost every list you get is going to be some Chicago western suburb or somewhere on the north end of Chicago, up by Naperville and all that kind of area around there. Is that true? Like, is that the only, like, part of the state where people should move to, is like Chicago suburbs, or are there other areas that are great?
So I have this show called On the Road with Jordan, where we're going to small towns and kind of seeing what they're all about, and, you know, from the west, east, north, south of the 217, and, you know, like, I visited a place yesterday called Pittsfield, and if your way of life is pretty simple, and, you know, you have your Walmart and your grocery store and, you know, good friends and, you know, a couple places to hang out on a Friday night, like a bowling alley, it's a perfectly peaceful place. it's perfectly good for you to raise a family and live. I think it really depends what you want of life, of what you want. Do you want to live within an hour and a half of St. Louis, or 3 hours like where I live in Chicago, near Chicago? Then a place like Pittsfield might not be for you. But in terms of like being safe and everything, I think there's tons of areas. It's just they don't get attention because they're so small.
You guys travel around to different. You're on the road with Jordan, and you guys go to small communities in Illinois and just show them off. Is that an option for people that want to raise a family and be somewhere safe? Is just maybe instead of going to Chicago suburbs where it's just madhouse and crazy traffic, ghetto crime, very beautiful neighborhoods, when you could just go to like some small town downstate, 20,000, 30,000 people.
Right, or even, a town that has maybe 5,000 people, but yet, you would have maybe a half-hour commute to a city like Springfield or Jacksonville or something like that, where you could have like a job that pays decent and, have a career. You don't have to be a farmer in order to live downstate. And Lord knows there's plenty of hospitals that, hire plenty of people. So it's kind of you would have to do a little bit more homework, in order to find those places. But there's definitely plenty of opportunity. Plus, property taxes and everything else are super low there. I mean, and for the most part, I would say school districts are good. Older I get, I'm beginning to think that school districts can be a crapshoot. It just depends on how your kid turns out, But yeah, I just think there's a lot of hidden gems that, and your dollar. If you're a nurse, where you're employed wherever, it makes sense to move downstate and still make maybe this amount of money, or if not more, and your dollar will go way further.
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm on board with that. Especially right now, everyone's looking for places they can move to that are off the radar, that are more secluded and private, people are downsizing their lives a little bit more. So you've seen a lot of these places. Can you rattle off? You said Pittsfield. Can you rattle off a few other smallish towns in Illinois that you think are cool, that are close enough that somebody could have a good job and not live in the big city, that are safe and would be good for families out there?
Yeah, absolutely. So Petersburg is another one where it's kind of a booming downtown. They have a good brewery place, and there's boutique shops and stuff like that. And then the school district is good, and that's only 30-40 minutes outside of Springfield. Waverly is another one that we visited last year, and that's near a bigger town like Jacksonville. And then there's a place like Carlinville. That's a good place where that's actually like a mini city on its own, but it's definitely doesn't have any stigma of like being dangerous or anything. Nokomis is another great one where your kid can go wander off and not worry that he's going to go get kidnapped or something. That the neighbors or everyone that he kind of contacts is going to be like, hey, tell your mom I said hi. And that's what I'm finding out is, even being from here, like I'm from a town called Pleasant Plains, and I'm still shocked to see just how often the small town camaraderie exists still, and it's like it doesn't matter who you are, they're going to take you in as long as you're in whatever. But I think it's for somebody that would have moved down here, it'd be rewarding it would be reassuring and rewarding to have that comfort of knowing that your kid isn't going to get kidnapped at Casey's.
So just little small towns on the fringes of the Springfield metro area that are good.
Yeah, and like I said, just very like that. What I've been amazed about is these towns are adapting to where they know that they don't have everything. They don't Springfield, like where I'm at now. I look and car wash. There's 3 fast food places next to each other. There's 2 Walgreens, and, all this stuff. They don't have that. So now they're adapting to where, there are shopping places. There are, places to eat. Every small town has at least one diner, obviously like the Old Man Bar. Then they also have like, a more modern place for, younger people, for, pubs and, all sorts of stuff. And their small towns are actually becoming a destination where people in Springfield or the larger towns go away for the day, to get away from everything. So, which is kind of cool to see that, like a place like Petersburg, now they're starting to have lodging so people can come and hang out for the day and experience Petersburg and its brewery and its winery and everything else, and get away from that big town life for a day and not have to worry about driving home.
Yeah, most of the small towns I've seen in Illinois don't look big enough or are like not nice enough that I could recommend them, but I have to look at some of these other places outside some of the places you're talking about. So they're out there.
Especially like the two I listed, like Pittsfield and Petersburg, it's kind of amazing that they're just reinventing themselves. And obviously it takes the support of community to make that happen. Like outsiders just can't support because it's not like it's Las Vegas where it's going to be known that people from all over the world are going to come and visit. You still have to have the small town, the community support in general, but man, once they get that support from the community, it just makes that much more successful when people from other towns come in and stop by for the day to have like a girls' day or kind of a vacation or close to home. So yeah, it's kind of surreal to see and awesome though, because it's definitely more small towns are becoming more modernized than what they were 10 years ago.
So can stuff like that save the exodus? Illinois is one of 3 states that lost more people than moved in the last 10 years. How does Illinois stop that?
I think that there's a lot of sociological issues involved in that. I don't know if it's just taxes or it's just one thing or another. I do think that at some point, riding the ship on politics, on, the tax stuff, which is, you're never going to fully make everyone happy, obviously. But I think that finding a way to where, if you're a business owner, that you're going to have a chance to survive with less red tape, and, you're going to have a chance to survive if you make $35,000 a year, that you're not going to be nickeled and dimed so much. The people I know that have moved, they move for, career opportunities or whatnot. So I guess that starts with just making it easier for corporations to want to move to Illinois to set ground in, you know what I mean? If a place like Amazon comes in and has several shops, well, people are going to want to come to Illinois to work for, a Fortune 500 company. Maybe Amazon's a bad example because of all the bad PR they get, but you know what I mean? A company that's well known and hires tons of people. That's how you kind of save those communities,
So where do people go? And people that are fleeing the state for jobs. Where are they going to? Wisconsin? Are they going to St. Louis?
Where are they going? Colorado. Common is Colorado. Colorado. A couple people I know went to Florida. But for whatever reason, I guess because they like outside, but they don't want to, deal with corn, but they'd rather hike. They go to Colorado. I think, I'm trying to think who else. A couple of people know to Texas. And, all those places are a lot warmer. Well, actually, Colorado's not. But, go to Colorado, the cost of living in Colorado is insane because everyone's fleeing to Colorado from California and Illinois. So, goes back to your dollar doesn't go as far. I have to work 3 jobs just so you can say you live near the mountains.
Are they happy, the people that moved to that leave Illinois you keep in touch with? Do they seem happier?
Yeah, they do. You know, I think that there's a friend I know that says that everyone needs to move away from their state, you know, because you can always come back. And, you know, if that works out, it works out. I know one friend that just is happy because I think a lot goes into moving away, not because of, you know, taxes or Illinois, whatever. You know, I think that, you know, some people need their own personal growth to be around different surroundings, you know. Mm-hmm. I think there's a lot that goes into moving, not because, you know, the weather sucks or taxes this or taxes that. I think it's just, you know, moving to see if the person can grow in more ways than one, if that makes sense, you know.
Hey guys, if you learned something new about America or what it's like to live in America, great. You should think about subscribing and turning on your notifications. You can also click one of these videos or playlists for more. You can also now buy my songs on iTunes and other formats. Click the link in the description. Thanks for watching. And remember, while we all might have different views, we should all be nice to each other and try to make the U.S. a better place in a positive way.
This is Sage, Nick's manager. This has been a Corner House Entertainment production.
And are you looking to move and need advice? I do consulting. That's right. I'll sit down and talk about where the next perfect place for you and your family should be. I do it all the time. Together, let's find you a new home that's safe and checks all your boxes. You can get my email in the description to find out how I can help you find your perfect relocation.